Hi everyone, my name is Bricky. I make videos on the internet, and this is a second channel in which I make other videos talking about other things that I'm not going to fit into a full video. On today's topic, video game movies. Are they bad? Yes. But specifically this one. The background footage you're watching is going to be a stock photo of the front cover of this movie, slowly zooming in on Mark Wahlberg's face for the entire duration. So you don't need to watch this, you can just listen to it if you'd like. So, for the last couple of months, give or take, I am, of course, a Twitch streamer, and as a partner with Twitch, they have actually invited me out to a couple pre-screenings of movies, 3 times in total. I went to go see Dune early, I also went to go see The House of Gucci, and here the Uncharted movie was my third. All of these were put on by Twitch as well as Sony and then Warner Brothers, etc., all the people who were running them. And it's actually a pretty cool gig. It's something you do online. You actually, like, it's for the kind of SoCal local people. I live in Orange County. It's up in LA, and my sister and I are big movie buffs, so we both went together to go see all 3 of these movies because, you know, can hang out with my sister and all that, and it's fun. And so we went, and, you know, Dune, pretty fantastic. Love it. Just great. House of Gucci, it was fine. Wasn't my favorite thing. It looked good, but it's like, whatever. And then, of course, was Uncharted. And, you know, if you're going to invite people out to go see Uncharted for a pre-screening, you're going to invite the Twitch streamers. So, naturally, we went. And, well, my hopes for the film weren't high to begin with. You know, I mean, I've seen Assassin's Creed and the Warcraft movie, and I've watched some of the Witcher TV show, and honestly, the best video game adaptations have been the animated ones. I'd say Castlevania, as well as Arcane, are by far the best animated, or just the best conversions of video games to movies out there at the current moment. Probably number 1. Actually, by far, I think. They're pretty incredible. And so, with Uncharted, you know, I'm looking at the cast, and I recognized basically nobody besides 3 people. Tom Holland, Mark Wahlberg, and Antonio Banderas, if that's how his name is said. I hope I got that right. And so, my hopes weren't super high for the movie. And when I saw it and I came out of it, it wasn't great. It's not good. It's not offensively bad. Like, it's not Suicide Squad where I came out of that film like, oh my God, I cannot believe this is the final cut of the movie. But it's not The Room bad where it's enjoyable despite it being bad. It's dull bad. Now, it might surprise you that I was one of the few people who actually saw Tom Cruise's The Mummy movie. And I know most of you probably haven't seen that, but those of you who have seen that, I think can agree with me that the movie isn't particularly awful. It's really corporate-y and greedy, but it's not like just terrible. It's dull. And that's Uncharted. Not the corporate-y part. It didn't feel too corporate sleaze. It just felt really dull. The dialogue in particular. Actually, oh my God, the dialogue. Okay, so this movie's script is fucking terrible. If I had to say anything in this movie, the script is awful. They basically took an entire game of Nathan Drake quips and put it into a movie. They never shut up. They are constantly cracking jokes. It's like all the terrible times a Marvel movie had inappropriate humor. The entire film is that. The entire film is that. It's consistently talking and jokes and memes over and over and over again. And it works in Uncharted because it's a 12-hour-long game that has time in between the quips where you use for gameplay and puzzle solving. However, it's just never ending trying to be funny stuff. It is non-stop. The script in this movie, the actual dialogue is abysmal. It is by far the worst part of the entire film. It is shockingly bad. And that goes along with the pacing of the film. It is going way too fast. The movie's a little bit under 2 hours, and that's, you know, it's pretty normal runtime, but it is just moving at a breakneck pace, and nothing has any time to develop. Characters don't have time to create relationships with one another or partnerships. They also do that thing that really grinds my gears, where every time a character looks at a note, they have like eerie, dreamlike voiceover of the character they're reading the note from. I'm gonna spoil this movie. Don't see it. I'm gonna spoil this movie regardless. All right, this movie is Uncharted 4, basically retold. But in the beginning, there's a Sam and Nate Drake thing with the nunnery and all that stuff, and they leave and blah 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 blah. But Sam sends postcards to Nathan all the time, and every time I feel like we're calling him Nathan Drake. I'm gonna call him Tom Holland, because there is Nathan Drake. I've seen Nathan Drake. His name is Nolan North. He's actually in the movie. Nolan North has a cameo. It's a little long, but it's pretty funny, and I liked it, and it was cool to see Nolan North. But besides that, it's Tom Holland. Tom Holland reads Sam Drake's notes, and every time he reads them, you get the voiceover sound effect. Every time, and this happens over 10 times. It is shocking how much they do this. And it is moving at a breakneck speed, which moves into how that doesn't work, because the acting in the movie, there are two good actors in the film. Two. Tom Holland and Antonio Banderas. And Antonio Banderas has barely any screen time. Do you remember the name of the main villain of Uncharted 1? Of course you fucking don't, because he arrives randomly, he gets the El Dorado, dies, then you fight a psychic on a boat. It's terrible. You probably remember the second game's villain, I think. Lazarevic. Yes, Lazarevic, I think that's his name. Or something similar, something like that. You remember him because Uncharted 2 was a much more phenomenal game. And you probably don't remember Uncharted 4's villain, which was Rafe, because Uncharted 4 is, in my opinion, the best of the series by far. It's actually incredibly good. But I don't even remember the name of Antonio Banderas' character. He's Spanish. It takes place in Barcelona a little bit. Oh my god. I actually already forgot his character's name. He's just Antonio Banderas. I don't even remember the sidekicks. He has almost no screen time, but anytime he was on screen, he felt at least believable. None of the other characters felt believable. He had this side chick, or not side chick, it's a sidekick, but like an underling who's a girl, and she kind of becomes the main villain near the end of the entire movie. And what the hell was her name? I don't even remember her name. I saw this last night. It hasn't even been 24 hours. What was her name? Oh my god. They're mostly all terrible, except for Tom Holland and Antonio Banderas. He has very little screen time, but he does okay. Tom Holland is doing that thing where, boy, he's fucking trying. This kid is trying. He is the only one who played the game. I'm positive about it. He is the only of the main cast that played the game, because he is 50% cringe, 50% pretty okay. And it's not his fault. It's the script he was given. The script is so terrible. But he is legitimately trying. Sometimes I was like, that's kind of Nathan Drakey. All right, not bad. And then the other times I was like, I can't, there's so many jokes. They don't stop talking. Wow. He legitimately tried. Poor kid. This movie was he's too good for this movie. And it's that weird thing with the dialogue where, like, characters will say things that I believe their characters would say in the game. Like, most to all the dialogue Tom Holland says, I believe Nathan Drake would say that, but it's not said properly. It's a quip that just came after another quip, where in Uncharted, you just fought 5 guys and some action scene, you did a puzzle, there was a light cutscene, and then there's a funny joke at the end, right? Sully is an asshole, right? But he's a lovable asshole. Mark Wahlberg is a charisma void. I don't know if maybe I've got this weird mental image of Mark Wahlberg because The Departed is one of my favorite movies of all time, and he's quite good. Officer Diggum, I think is his name. He's actually quite good in that film. Or maybe it's because he played Mickey Ward in The Fighter, and I really like Mickey Ward as both as the real boxer, and his performance as Mickey Ward wasn't terrible. But I guess somewhere down the line he gave up because Mark Wahlberg was shockingly bad. He is maybe not the worst performance in the movie, but dude, he played Sully. Sully is the most charismatic character in the damn game. I was gonna say he's an old man who sleeps with women half his age, which is actually quite creepy now that I say that, but he's got like old James Bond feel, you know? Like you know Sully's a fun guy. He's smoking cigars. He's got a lot of money. He wears those crappy Hawaiian shirts and he's crashing his plane. Sully's a fun guy, but he's such a fucking terrible pick, Mark Wahlberg. Oh my god, that might have been the worst casting decision I have ever seen. There's a girl who plays Chloe Frazer. She's not good either. She's actually a pretty bad actress in this film. I don't know how she is in other stuff. I don't know much about her, but she's not very good in this movie. They didn't need Chloe. I like Chloe a lot, actually, in the games. She has that DLC that was a little short, but I forget what it's called. The Lost Legacy. And I remember her being pretty good in that, and she's pretty good in Uncharted 2. I like Chloe in the games quite a bit, actually, but she's just didn't need to be in the movie, and her character was not acted very well either. I am flabbergasted that they cast Mark Wahlberg in this thing. I am, you know, when you have like an opinion on someone, and it kind of, like my dad always thought Bruce Willis was really cool, and because he only watched, you know, the old Bruce Willis movies, and I feel like if I showed him what Bruce Willis is doing right now, he'd be devastated. He'd be heartbroken. It is, oh my god. But like I said, he'll say things that Sully would probably say, like, yeah, I don't trust anyone in this business, kid. That's a pretty Sully thing, right? But it's done by Mark Wahlberg. He sounds like shit. I cannot believe they casted Mark Wahlberg as Sully. Why would you do that? But okay, so I've been railing on this film so far, right? So why is it not offensively bad? Because the actual action scenes are pretty solid. In fact, I didn't realize that Tom Holland was actually a gymnast, or like an acrobatic, and that's why he was able to nail his Spider-Man role. There's some stunt work and some fight scenes in this movie that are genuinely impressive. Anytime punches, okay, so this movie is, it could be rated PG, if I'm being totally honest, because like there's no blood of any kind in the actual, like, someone gets like their throat slit and it's just the most fake thing I've ever seen. It's really toned down, but the actual fight scenes, there's some genuinely good stunt work, especially by Tom Holland. There's some genuinely solid fight scenes. He fights this Scottish guy who, they have a running gag that you can't understand what he says, which, as someone who knows a few Scottish people, yeah, that's pretty accurate. They play it up a little bit. But there's like a fight scene in like a club. It's pretty good. There's a fight scene in an auction, a fancy place. That's pretty good. And then there's the ending of the movie, which I'll get to in a moment. But the fight stuff and the choreography are pretty darn solid, despite the acting being poor. I guess one thing that annoys me, though, is that I've seen it all before. This movie is basically a one-to-one recreation of Uncharted 4 with some sprinkling of 2 and 3. So you've seen in the posters Nathan Drake, Tom Holland coming out of the plane with all the stuff, right? That's lifted entirely from Uncharted 3 when all the cargo is coming out of the plane. But they start the movie like Uncharted 2, where he's waking up from being unconscious and he's actually upside down hanging off of something. But instead of a train off of a cliff from Uncharted 2, he's actually hanging off of the plane part in 3. So and then of course, then they flash back and they bring you back to that part later on. So a little bit of 2 in there, that's part in 3. But then the 4 part is just, like, it's 90% Uncharted 4. The opening with the nuns and the nursery or whatever with Sam and Nathan, and then Sam leaves, that's entirely different from it. There is a auction where they need to get across, and the villain is there, and they're trying to cut the power. identical to Uncharted 4. They take the cross, they run away, they go to a foreign country, they do some stuff, Uncharted 4. The ending of the movie is a pirate ship in an alcove, in a cave, in the Philippines, with them on a boat, and all that, and them getting gold. Just no sword fight, which is unfortunate. Well, there is a sword fight, but no Wraith sword fight, which is a really good part of that game. It's almost entirely Uncharted 4. Just told differently, because it's like a younger Nathan Drake. Now, the only part that this movie genuinely made me enjoy was the ending. The last 30 minutes go so off the rails, it's kind of great. There is, like I said, it's not a good movie, you shouldn't see it, so I'm going to spoil it regardless. But unlike the Captain Henry Avery and the Gunsway heist, I think was the fourth game, and they have the sword fight. Instead, the main villain, because there's two ships down there, not just the one, instead decides to airlift both of these pirate ships via helicopter. And with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg on the ship, in which they then take over one of the helicopters, and they proceed to have a ship-on-ship flying dogfight, where Mark Wahlberg is flying the helicopter, carrying the pirate ship with Tom Holland on it, and the villain is in the helicopter flying the other pirate ship with all the henchmen on it. And they're like doing dog fights with like giant pirate ships floating in the air, diving between each other and like smashing into each other, and the enemy henchmen are firing harpoon guns to pirate raid flying pirate ships in the air. It's so fucking dumb, but it's kind of great. It's kind of incredible, and was the only real saving grace, because it was well choreographed. There's a great moment where they throw the Uncharted theme in there a little bit, which was wonderful. It's well choreographed. The CGI is quite nice, and it's only ruined by them talking, because then they make jokes, and that's terrible. But just imagine two helicopters airlifting with big nets, two pirate ships, and then dogfighting. And then like swinging around each other and fighting each other with pirate ships midair in helicopters. It's pretty great. It was the only time I was genuinely impressed and enjoying myself in the film, because it was so dumb, but in the perfect kind of campy Uncharted way that it's supposed to be. Because the endings of the Uncharted games are always insane, right? Was it like the complete destruction of the lost city of Shambhala and the entire sand city like being sunk, and like just it's always ridiculousness. A gigantic pirate haven, it's so good. And so that kind of stuff adds a lot to it, in my opinion, and it really throws a lot of extra craziness to it. That was a lot of fun. That it even ends with Tom Holland firing a cannon out of one of the ships to hit the other helicopter carrying the ship. And I think that like crushes the bad guy with the ship. It's really dumb, but in that kind of great, campy, horrible silliness way. So yeah, don't watch this film. It's not good. It's not offensively bad, but it's that kind of dull bad that will make it forgotten incredibly quickly. The only thing that you will remember from this movie is the pirate ship dogfight scene at the end. It is the only part you will remember because it's the best part and it's genuinely entertaining. Besides that, it's really not good, and I feel really bad for Tom Holland, because I know, like, he genuinely looked like he gave a shit. In fact, he looked like the only person in the entire cast that gave a shit. He's probably the only one who actually played the game, and he tried. But even he couldn't fix that script. Because wow. Just wow. I'm going to go replay Uncharted 4 because it's a masterpiece. And yeah. I mean, this is probably one of those movies that if it's in online, like it's on in the background, it's not the worst option. It's fine, but it just, yeah, no. Video game movie, another dud. Rest in peace. Peace.